Here he comes right now. Trying to stay on time. Are we ready, Scott? Good evening and welcome to the City of Sharonville Special Council meeting. If everyone would please rise, we're going to have a moment of silent prayer and then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Be seated. Mr. Pike, could you please do roll call?
Sure, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Mr. Tankersley?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Lippert?
Here.
Mr. Duda?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mrs. Knight?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Thank you. We will go ahead and just jump right in. Stephanie would like to do your presentation first, and this is, the meeting is really the only agenda item is our Kemper Road sidewalk. Yes, if you don't mind, so we can get it recorded. Thank you.
So I believe you all were given a packet of information that shows kind of the layout as we currently have it proposed. And what we have done is just taken a standard typical section and run it down the road so you could see what the impacts are. So it's about in the working meeting where it's a 3 foot off of the back of the curb with a tree lawn in that 3 foot, and then a 5 foot sidewalk beyond that. And you can see all of that fits within the existing right of way throughout the whole project. But along that, there are tree impacts along the way. And so those are kind of the things that I wanted to kind of discuss with the council today, just, let you see what the tree impacts are. Kind of, we roughed out what the driveway replacements should be with this scenario. And just kind of wanted to take it, kind of step by step and just look through the project. And
Perfect, thank you.
all right. So I don't know if you just want to kind of go property by property or how we want to do it.
Fine.
Okay. All right. So UDF parcel, really not much going on there. We had planned for this all along when we were reviewing the plans for the UDF. So that wall is set back far enough. We don't even need to get outside of the right of way on that parcel, which is good. There is a little bit of utility relocations that were kind of planned all along, even with the shared use path. So really doesn't change that aspect of it. We probably will need to meander around a pole if we want to get it, as opposed to relocating that pole, it would be better to just go behind the pole. So we can do that pretty easily on that parcel. So really not too much there. The first property on the line, 3800 Kemper Road. This one is one of the steeper properties, and so the driveway does extend fairly far back into the driveway replacement just to make up the grade that we need for the sidewalk. And also there is a bit of a hillside that happens in between that driveway and the edge of the UDF parcel. And so we would be grading back on that hillside. And so that tree line right there and those trees would be impacted with the grading. Moving on to the 3802, has 2 driveways. Really not a lot going on in the right of way there. Most of it is, there is a conflict with the Duke pole. So it's possible that we could meander the sidewalk to go around that pole if we need to. It seems like there's enough room in the right of way that we could probably do that with still not being able without getting onto the property and outside of the right of way there. It does impact shrubs on either side of the driveway. 3828, that one, there is a tree in the right of way there. The way the tree is placed, if we were to go behind the tree, I mean, it's possible that we could do that. I have my doubts that we could, I think we would still probably have impact to the roots of that tree. So, that might be a discussion that we need to have, that maybe that tree would not be savable unless we were to go outside the right of way onto the property on that tree or in that area. Next couple of properties are the 3838, not really much going on there. 3850, we still have the issue with the trees in the right of way. There are 3 trees remaining in the right of way, and we still have the conflict with the Duke Electric pole that was going to be relocated with the part of the shared use path. So again, the position of the trees makes it difficult to go behind them and still not impact their roots. So that would be, aside from getting outside the right of way there with that one, I'm not really sure how we would avoid those trees. 3870, just some landscaping, small landscaping that happens up around the mailbox, not too terribly much there, that would be impacted. The grading doesn't extend very far into the property because there's really just not, it's pretty flat in that area. 3880, there's 2 driveways on this property with a tree in the middle. I think it's possible that this tree is fine. It's just that it's big and it's kind of, starting to grow into the right of way here. So it's possible that that tree, maybe just trimming it on that edge would be sufficient to keep it off the path. But I think we could build the path without impacting that tree. There are some shrubs in that area that would need to be cut back a little bit, though. Same thing with 3890. I think those trees are set back far enough that they should not be impacted by the construction. And I don't think those are quite as big, so I don't think they need to be, they might need to be trimmed, but we'll have to see on that. I think they're fine. All right. Down to the bottom of the page there, 3906. Again, there's another pine tree there that's probably a little overgrown and should be able to be kept during construction, but may need to be trimmed back a little bit. Some landscaping around their mailbox in that area that would be impacted. 3922, not a whole lot on that one. 3958, the corner right there, there's a landscaping with the sign for the Woods View Lane that's in that area that would be impacted by the path. And then also, I think it's a sign for Woods View Lane on 3958. It's right there at the corner of Woods View and Kemper. I think that would, that sign and that landscaping in that area are kind of in the area where we would be crossing the road. So that's going to be impacted. And then we're in the roots of that tree. I think that's another one of those things we could try to do, tree notes where we say be very careful and try not to impact the tree. But it's one of those things where it's kind of tough to say for sure whether it can really be constructed and not bother the tree. But it looks like the grading pretty well stays within the right of way there. 3972, the right-of-way jumps back in this area, and Jim and I were talking about this. I'm not really sure exactly why it did that. Maybe they were thinking eventually it might be, Kemper Road might be widened, and so that's why the right-of-way is stepped back further there. But either way, there is sidewalk on the majority of these properties up to Sharon Park Lane, that existing sidewalk that is further back. Now, we don't currently show keeping that sidewalk. We show removing that sidewalk. Now, there is the possibility of, that we could just use that sidewalk and kind of tie our path into that sidewalk instead. I believe it's only a 4-foot wide sidewalk, and we're talking about a 5-foot, so we might at least want to reconstruct it as a 5-foot to make it kind of up to current standards. But that would be, something that the council may want to consider. I think either way would be fine, that sidewalk, the location of it. We could meander back to it and it wouldn't be a problem from an engineering standpoint. If we do stay up near the road though, 3980, there are a couple trees that would be impacted and a very small shrub or small tree there. And then also tree impacts on 4004. there's one tree there. So skipping down forward, and when you cross Sharon Park Lane at 4036, again, there's existing sidewalk on that property that could either be kept or we could stay up by the road. The right-of-way stays big. It looks like it's all the way to the end of the project. So, but we do start to have grading issues once you get beyond the construction of that existing sidewalk on 4044. Then you the properties start to drop off. So at that point, I'd recommend that we get back to the road. If we did decide to keep that sidewalk, we should go back up by the road. 4054, there is a small tree on that property that I don't think we could avoid unless we went to the back. 4064 and 4074, these are the steeper lots, and there is several tree impacts on these properties to get the grading to work with the sidewalk. There is a large tree impact, and then 4096, the driveway replacement is kind of big on this one just due to the grading of the drive and how all that works. And then right there at the edge, we start to get on Sharon Wood's property right after 4096. And there's a couple of trees in that area. And we've already talked about those tree impacts with Sharon Woods. They're aware of them, and they've evaluated the trees, and they are fine with them. So that's kind of where it stands right now. Just kind of want to throw it out there and talk about it and see, you know, what the preferences would be with regards to how to work around some of these.
Thank you. Are there any questions right now for this? Anybody? All right. Let's open it up to hear the residents. One at a time, give us your name and your address, please.
Good evening. I'm Charlie Pugh. We live at 3870 East Kemper Road. Just wanted to ask, is there a projected start and completion time for the project?
Stephanie?
We had originally talked about constructing this next year, getting it out in the spring of what the current schedule shows, and then.
Because you're aware that some of us, like we have shrubbery and things that need to be removed. I just want to make sure that the things that are salvageable, that we have a chance to do that. Will you be sending out a letter to notify us before start date, or what is the intent
Yeah,
there?
we can do that definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I had. Thank you.
Hi, Vicky. Sorry to interrupt. Does Stephanie have a microphone at that table?
Let's do that. Okay, now she does, Terry. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, Alicia Salas from 3850 East Kemper. First, I'd like to just start by thanking you guys for making sure that the project was announced to all of us as we previously discussed in other meetings. We appreciate that. Next, I'd like to say that we are still opposed to this project. It still will be removing the overall aesthetic of the street, mainly by changing the massive amount of tree garden removals. It removes privacy and seclusion of the area by placing in a sidewalk. Our main concern, if the project moves forward, is who would be responsible for the maintenance, the care, cleaning, repairs, and any possible injuries. I know surrounding cities, there are some cities where the residents wind up being required for any type of repair work to sidewalks that are on their property, that is something that we would definitely be opposed to having any type of responsibility in.
No, in the city of Sharonville, we actually have a sidewalk program. So we go through our city, or residents call in and say, my sidewalk is uneven or this or that, and we put that down. And we've already budgeted for next year. So next year we would go out and repair or replace some of those sidewalks. So
Okay.
that would not be at your expense.
Okay. Next issue would be the increase of trash with the increase of traffic. Sharonville does an amazing job at street sweeping. It's one of the things that I actually have noticed since moving here is how often that is done, and how does that work with sidewalks as well?
I can tell you when this project started and I started riding my motorcycle and looking at your properties, and then I went up to Fields Erdel, which we just also did a new sidewalk there. They're in the same situation that you are. They have a UDF at the end of the road. My husband and I witnessed several people walking with their milkshakes. Very little trash, very little trash, very little trash. Now, again, demographics may change a little bit, but I don't think that much. I'm hoping that people are good neighbors and they don't throw their trash in your yard. But I did not see that up on Fields Erdel.
Okay.
And Mike and Dave Cook both live up that way, so they can attest.
Yeah, I would agree. Very little trash. You know, it could have come really from anywhere, but it is the same situation. There's a UDF at the end.
I saw more trash at UDF where like one of their garbage cans got flipped over or something than I did all along the road, all the way up to where my sister-in-law lives in Copperfield.
Okay,
So
great.
I'm hoping that doesn't become a problem.
Okay.
If it does,
I mean, no, do we go out and clean up trash around the sidewalk? We don't. What we do is obviously if you witness or observe individuals who are littering and doing that, it's a violation of the law. So our police department will certainly respond, and if we have to ticket people for littering, we certainly will. You know, obviously there's sidewalks all over the city, and some, you know, I have a sidewalk in front of my house. Is there occasionally somebody will throw a piece of litter there? Yes. But I think what you'd see is there's probably going to be more trash coming from automobile traffic that comes up and down Kemper Road than there is from pedestrian access.
Okay.
I think that's been our history. And certainly we have ordinances that try to prevent that from occurring,
Sure.
and certainly will enforce it.
Great. The last thing just would like to mention, if the project does proceed, we want to kind of really stress that we would like to see the other sidewalk projects to completion before starting on the East Kemper one. We don't want a sidewalk that winds up going nowhere, that doesn't access anything past UDF, especially with how much it is going to affect the properties by removing the trees, removing the privacy, just to have it stop at UDF.
well, I can tell you that tonight at Law Committee, we are working with ODOT. Now, we had to give up the money for this project, so please know that the city is paying for this sidewalk. We lost the money for the sidewalk bike path, okay? We also lost the bid because we turned down that money. So we did lose a lot in our city for doing this. However, CT, I believe Stephanie has been at the meetings. We are working with them on the 42 project currently. And we actually have legislation going out next Tuesday. We will send letters to the homes like we just did to you. We've learned our lesson. They're all going, I believe you guys should have all got a registered letter from us. They will all get a registered letter from us that will have impact. So 42 is moving forward just a few months, maybe not quite even a year, I don't believe. I don't know the funding with ODOT, but it, you know, within the next year, that project will be completed too. So it may not be in 21, it may be in 22, but you're back to back together.
It'll be started, but the construction on it will be farther out because the ODOT timeline does take a while to get through. So we'll be in design and right-of-way acquisition for a year and a half or so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that project is happening.
It is moving forward, so yeah.
And we're not gonna go back on that project. We've already talked about that. That project is moving forward. That's something that we've all agreed on. It's just, money and timing of how we get that money and when we can do it. But
Okay.
that is moving forward. So you will not have a sidewalk to nowhere.
Okay. And then I don't see Tom in yet, but he is in the parking lot finishing a work
I knew he
meeting.
was on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah,
yes.
so he is here. He would like to speak. He should
No, that's
be here
fine.
shortly.
That's
so.
why we had this meeting, is so you guys could see what the plan is. We had this, we're seeing it. Jim sent it out to us via email. Jim did do a great job today. He sent these to us because we have council people that are not able to make it tonight. So we all got even copies and pictures of your property so we can see what we're looking at and look at this so we understand what we're all talking about. So we are very prepared this evening. We wanted you to be able to see it and talk about it.
Great.
Okay,
Okay, thank you so much.
Mr. Lippert?
Do you mind if I ask you some stuff just to get some more
Yeah,
information?
absolutely.
So I know that you've been here multiple times. I appreciate you being here, and I hear what you're saying about the project. You know, I don't speak for everybody on council, but I personally support this project because I like the idea of connectivity. Having said that, one of the ideas we had in one of the meetings, and this is a design in process. Yes. Okay. So if the project moves forward against your wishes, I understand. This design is pretty much a straight path
Fine.
design, but one of the ideas, and I don't even know who said it, was whether or not it could meander around some trees. Because what I heard from the meeting that was really well attended was, we like our trees. We want to try to keep our trees as much as possible. Do you have a preference? Again, I know this would go against your ultimate wishes, but
Sure.
whether or not you would give up property to have the sidewalk further away from
The
the
tree.
street to keep the trees. Do you have, can you say which is the lesser of two evils
The-
in your mind?
A really hard one.
I'm sorry to put you on the spot, and if you want to think about it, feel free, but
Yeah,
I'm
I
just
think I would definitely have
trying
to
to
think,
get
and I
more
think it's a very
information.
fair question to ask as a proposal for options. I'd like to take that back to my partner, discuss with him, see how he feels. But you know, I think it's a very fair question to ask.
Okay.
So.
And that,
And anybody else who's here, I'd love to hear what they have to say
that's
about
why
that
we're
as
doing
well.
this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Correct.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
We've got
We
probably
have
one of
three
the
left.
bigger pieces of properties that have trees that are, you know, that straight line sidewalk would don't give us any option other than
To go
take it
up
out.
over.
It also appears that as I look at your property, it would be pretty easy for us to
Meander.
swoop it up and go
Higher.
higher than your trees to keep the trees. But we don't have right of way there, so it would entail you agreeing to do that. And we could,
Sure.
we could certainly get there. And I think Dave, it looks like probably Dave.
The three trees.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
My name is Wendell Branscombe. I live at 3880 East Kemper Road. I'm opposed to this project. I was opposed to the last one. Nothing's changed really. I mean, there's little to no foot traffic or bike traffic up through there. And I see no reason to disrupt that street for a sidewalk. It's not like you're building the Field of Dreams where if you build the sidewalk, all of a sudden people are going to start using the sidewalk. If people don't walk up and down through there now, why would they walk up and down through there if there was a sidewalk? I mean, it makes no sense to spend taxpayer dollars on something that appears that's not going to have any use. I thought this was a bad choice of a place to put it in the first place, and I still think that way. I think there was a lot of other options you could have looked at and put it there, which made a lot more sense. And one of the big things that really gets me all the time is, because I'm up and down 42 a lot, there's people walking 42 all the time. Have been, forever. There's been no effort to do anything up through there. But instead we'll go to a side street or a side road and want to put in a sidewalk, which it makes no sense. Why would you build an arm before you built the main artery? I mean, unless you're just looking to make a pathway down to UDF. So, like I say, it makes no sense to me to spend money this way. None. That's pretty much all I got.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'm Tom Cohorst at 4054. Kind of piggybacking on his last statement. I noticed his end of the street, there is no foot traffic. At my end, there is, simply because the people were coming out of the, what is it? The apartment complex.
Sharonville?
Shadow Hill, yeah, thank you. And that's basically the only foot traffic I ever see, are people that are coming out of there and then cutting across, because the sidewalk ends at my neighbor next door's property line. That's why I never figured out why there wasn't a complete sidewalk. But as far as a lot of foot traffic, there isn't. I mean, even from the people back in the apartments, they usually come on weekends. They're going to Sharon Woods to walk on their path. Other than that, I don't see why we need this sidewalk either. It just doesn't present any improvement. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Ms. Asbrock, did you want to speak? Not raising your hand. Do we know where Mr. Dusa is in his Zoom meeting? Okay, because I do know he wanted to talk. Is- Okay, okay. Is there any comments or any more discussion from council on what you feel or what you would like to see? Now's your opportunity. And I can tell you that we did notice an increased foot traffic when we built it on Fields Erdel. I will say that the people that live up that way have noticed.
Yeah, there was, I would say, any foot traffic on Field Erdel before the building of that sidewalk was extremely negative, especially at night. People are walking.
Can't hear Mike.
Okay, people walking along Fields Erdel Road before that sidewalk was built, and there was some, not a lot. It was dangerous. I would tell my kids, do not walk on that road. That's not a safe place to be. And so since we have built that sidewalk, the foot traffic is pretty well used there on that sidewalk. You don't see trash, but you do see people walking regularly there. And so the comments about why would you build a sidewalk when there's no one walking in the road is I would simply say, if you're walking on the road, on Kemper Road, then you probably made a bad judgment. I think that putting a sidewalk in actually makes it safe to walk on that. And so that will show an increase in foot traffic, just because now there's a place to safely walk. Well, there isn't currently, there's not one now. But the Fields Erdel Road, that was a road that was narrow. It's a little wider now, but primarily that sidewalk gives people a safe place to walk where they're not going to be hit by a passing car. And Fields Erdel was a dangerous place to be walking before that sidewalk went in. And when the sidewalk went in, the walkers came and people began to use it a lot.
Just because I'm not very familiar with what that area looks like, as I'm driving down 42, I have a glimpse at the area. I feel like that neighborhood has a very different demographic and feel and layout of who is there and how these houses are as compared to the types of homes and layout of Kemper. It feels more of a neighborhood. Again, I'm not very familiar with what it looks like there just on glance. Is it not more of a neighborhood feel down that road where I understand what you're saying? If it's there, maybe more people would use it on Kemper. To me, it just seems like there would be more of an interest based on the type of neighborhood feel versus how that is, how our neighborhood is, how our street is.
You're asking me that my opinion about that. What I can say is there's little places where you come off of Fields Erdel Road and you go back into neighborhoods, and absolutely, there are subdivisions there. There's Village Woods, there's Indian Creek, there's Copperfield. And so as you go up through there's about 3 places where you can go back into a subdivision. The houses that actually sit on Fields Erdel Road is the closest comparison I can find to Kemper Road myself. And I've traveled both of those roads quite a bit. But I think that's the closest to that. And the houses that sit on Fields Erdel Road, there's no neighborhood association. There's no neighborhood feel there. In order to get what you're talking about, it exists, but you have to go off of Fields Erdel Road into those subdivisions to get that neighborhood feel.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Dusa, thank you. You're up. Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, everybody, come on up. Everybody else has spoken, so we were just trying to fill time.
When you're talking, Stephanie, when you're talking about the existing sidewalk starting at 3972, one of the things that I think has been a theme in residents who are speaking is they want to lessen the impact. And so if we were to use that, you're talking about demolishing that and expanding it to 5 feet. Is that basically what I'm hearing you say?
That would be my recommendation. It meets current ADA standards and that sort of thing if it were the 5 feet. If not, there are modifications we could make to make it meet guidelines by putting like passing areas on it every so often that are a little wider.
What does that do to cost? Is that same increase, less cost? What does that do?
As far as putting it back where it is, I mean, I have to look at the grading across the slots. It might save money. But those areas are generally flat. There's not a lot of grading anyway. So I'd say it's probably not going to make a huge impact in cost on those particular lots.
On the plan and profile sheets, if we took that back sidewalk past 4044 and extended it, in the back area to 4054 and then started coming towards the street as far as not impacting the existing trees, landscaping, or minimizing that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd like to look into that as far as that whole idea of minimizing the impact of the trees and whatnot.
Yeah, I think that might be an option. I'd have to look at 4054. I think that's the lot that it starts to kind of change the grade on, but we could probably kind of dive back into the road in front of 4064.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Dusa.
Oh, no problem. Okay, Tom Dusa, 3958 East Kemper Road. And thank you for waiting for me.
Not a problem.
I've been here for a while, but I've been out in my car there with another project. I guess I appreciate what you guys have, you did what you said you were going to do, and you're going to bring us back into the conversation before we get too far into this. And I realize this is what I do for a living, so I understand what's going on. But I realize the main thing is that we're reducing the size of what we were going to put in there. And
Did you get a copy of this?
I've got this one.
Okay.
It was sent to me in the mail. Is it different?
It's
Well, that's
easier
all right.
to read.
Like I said, I can see, it's not, I don't have the
Yeah, this one has-
topography on there either, or the aerial on there either, but that's okay. I live here, been here for
Okay.
35 years. I know what it looks like. But there's just a couple things that I'm trying to get a handle on here, and I just want to make sure that you're being totally upfront with us on this. And the biggest thing is, again, why are we putting the sidewalk in here? What's the objective? To have people go down to UDF or to have people to come down here? That the bikeway was to have people come down here. So
Right.
why is the sidewalk going in?
Both, walkability, mobility in Sharonville, people can walk.
To go to the UDF? Is that why we're putting it
Not
in?
just the UDF, because
Excuse me?
Not just the
Okay.
UDF. You weren't here. We
Okay, I'm
actually, and no, it's okay. I will explain. We actually are in the process of Route 42. We had to wait until we could get ODOT money again to process that. We've just started. We're going to have our first reading next Tuesday. Then we will send out letters to all those impacted, and then we'll go out certified because we have learned our lesson. Those certified then can come to our January meeting when we talk about it, and then we will vote a second and third time to move forward with that project and accept the money from ODOT and everything. And she's saying it'll take about a year, year and a half, just because of all the ODOT processes and things like that too, to get that under route and on in. So it won't be a sidewalk to nowhere. It's going to be a sidewalk to another sidewalk or walkway, pathway down to downtown Sharonville. So everything would be walkable then to downtown Sharonville, not just for the people that, live on Kemper Road, but for the people that may live in Shadow Hill that want to walk downtown, trying to make it safer. I know they want us to continue on up 42. We have lots of projects going on up 42 also. So eventually it will go all the way up and it will meet with Field Turtle that we're talking to. That's why we're trying to do the roads that we can to make Sharonville walkable and accessible to everyone. Why the ADA compliance is because if you're in a wheelchair, you can still get around. That's why, that's the reasoning for it. When we did our big meetings for the 2030, we were told by people that attended those meetings, that was a big thing that they wanted to see in our community was accessibility to other neighborhoods, walkability, biking ability, those kind of things. So that's why when we can, we move forward with that. So we did it on Plainfield, we did it on Field Turtle. We're going to do it. We were going to do much bigger, and we've now just got it down to the 5-foot sidewalk that we're going to build. So we are going to do that on Kemper, and then we are going to come down 42 or Reading Road, whatever, down into downtown Sharonville.
Okay.
And make that all connectable then.
All right. I'm glad to hear you tell me that because I was wasn't happy if it was just going down to UDF.
No, it's
No.
not just going, that wasn't the dream for it to just go to UDF. The dream is for us to be connected.
Okay. Well, let me just tell you, from my experience, and I know that you have a plan, you're thinking it through, however many years out you think it's going to be. But the reality is, and we aren't the same as, it isn't the same as what went on over there at Fields Erdel. One time we did have our curbs done, and we do have, but over there, you redid the roadway, and you did a lot of stuff over there, and you upgraded that whole system for the whole travel lane of the vehicle. And so I could see why you did that. You took the time to put the sidewalk. Now we are just putting a sidewalk in on our place. And, you know, this was the complaint before, and it's still there, but still progress will overtake that if you guys explain it right. There's going to be some damage. We call it damage. You guys call it progress, but there's going to be some damage to the aesthetics of that area. And I just want to make sure that you're spending the money correctly and in the right order. My fear is that you're going to, even if it takes a year and a half to do it, you're going to put it in on Kemper. And then if you guys aren't here, or you know, you might have the plan, but the new people coming in don't, and you never build that. All we did was damage Kemper Road, and we didn't accomplish that. What I say you should do is, if you truly mean it, bring it up there first, have a destination, and then do what you're going to do to Kemper Road. There shouldn't be any hurry to do that if we're not going down to just going down to UDF. If we're truly going down here, make this connection first. Show us that there's going to be some challenges here. Now, I don't even, with this being a state route, you're inside a city, so I'm not sure who controls that, but there's other challenges here. And I, you know, engineers can make anything happen. I know that, but it's all about money. But there's other circumstances. I mean, hell, we just had COVID. So you never know what the future is going to bring. And I'm thinking we're doing it out of order if we do Kemper before we do the stretch. Now, again, this can't be, I don't confuse it with Fields Erdel, because Fields Erdel was not just about a sidewalk. Fields Erdel was about upgrading that road. While you're at it, you build the sidewalk. I would strongly recommend and suggest that you do the connector before you do the outlier. So that's my biggest complaint, or biggest point I want to make. I'm not complaining because it is in the right of way. I'm not in favor of it. I'm not also in favor of taking out perfectly good sidewalk and knocking down trees east of my property when you got a sidewalk in there.
And that's why we have you here. We're listening. We've actually talked to her. We love her trees. If they want to let us come onto their property, then we can meander a sidewalk. We don't need a straight line.
Right.
I don't need a straight line. None of us really care about it. But it could meander, it can, you know, go around.
Well, I mean, that's the start right there. If you can do it without causing trouble, not causing trouble, but having it be harder on the residents.
Right, and that she's gonna take it back to her partner, and they can discuss it with the powers that be down here, and Stephanie, and, you know, that's what this meeting is.
She takes the biggest blow on this stuff. Them and
That's what this meeting was for, though, so we can all talk about it. So she knows, okay, you're gonna lose maybe 3 trees, but if we do this, you may not lose any trees.
Okay. Well, still, I'm going to go back to what my point is. I think before you do Kemper and spend the money, you should build the connector first.
On the table, unfortunately, that's where they could get the grant money for. Even though we let go of the grant money, we've already gotten so much invested in this. But we are invested and will be moving forward with 42. So that money will be tied up, and contracts, just like your contract was made with ODOT and whoever we were getting the money from, that contract's going to be done in January. So that project will move forward, whether I die tomorrow or, you know, day after it passes. That project's going to move forward because council has given it its blessing. So January 12th is our next meeting. that's when that project will be blessed.
I know you mean, well,
No, I know,
tell
I'm
me
just
that.
saying.
No, you're trying to be honest with me and tell me that. I'm just saying my experience says you don't know what the future's gonna bring.
I
And it's
understand.
awful risky to build the outlier before you build the connector, just in case. If you build the connector, you're not out anything, because if you don't build the outlier, you at least have a connection to come down here. That's my point. So I hope you guys take that into consideration. I realize there's some money issues that you got to think it out. Yes.
Did you want to speak to?
Mr. Ducer, what's your street number, if you don't mind?
3958.
Just so I can get an idea of.
I'm right, there's a Woods View
Your perspective.
lane going back there. I'm right next to that to the east.
Mr.
DP did a
Duce's
good job
property
of
has
giving
the big
us,
scoop in it.
Yeah.
As you're driving up, you'll notice his property has the big scoop.
Did you ask me a question?
Yeah, no, you've been really good about attending these, as well as Alicia and the Pews and everybody else. So I neglected to reach out to you, and I should have, but one thing I remember you saying it more than once is, I think I might screw up the way you said it, but you said, there's a way to do this project the right way, and I know what it is. And like I said, I neglected to follow up with you. Do you remember what you were talking about, and can you share it now? And does it kind of match with what we're doing, or do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm going to go back to what I said. As engineers can make it be done anyway. There's more than one option. The point that you guys have to determine is what your goal is. And that's what just came out here when I just said this. If you want us to walk down here or them to walk up there, I would highly recommend you build it. You don't leave a gap, because if something happens and you don't build that gap, you've just upset the people up there on Kemper, except for the ones that were going to get ice cream. But the other thing is there are other ways. If we don't need to be on our side, the other side fits it better. I don't want to throw my neighbors under the bus, so to speak, but the other side is better. It has one challenging area where the steep drive is, where Mike Flagey lives. But again, you can work around that. There's hardly any trees you're going to knock down. And then down there by the, right down the corner, there's ways around that there. The sidewalk could be out in front of where the cars are parked, now that it's only a 5-foot walk. And you stay on that side and you don't cross Kemper Road.
I'll tell you, just so you know, I've gone through that thought process. I don't know if my colleagues have, but I think we all attended the same meetings. And I talked to Charlie about, I don't know, a week before one of the last big meetings we had on that. And he said, hey, bring up the south side. And I said, you know what? Fair enough. I hear where you're coming from. And so we talked about it, and somebody else made the point, the people on the south side, and it's a blessing and a curse at that point, right? They do have that path behind their house on Sharon Woods. And so the people who are on the north side, or other people outside of the Kemper Road area, are going to be the ones using this project. And so that's why, again, just speaking for myself, that's why I'm comfortable if the project moves forward with a north side sidewalk kind of thing.
Was there another reason for south side not being used, Stephanie? I believe you gave us that.
Yeah, the commercial properties at the beginning of the street are the ones that are the primary problem in my mind. And I've looked at it several times, and it would impact parking on both properties, the apartments and it's the auto parts store right at the corner. There's just not enough room, even with the 5-foot sidewalk.
You can pull out front rid of that. Now, the difference is going to be, you're going to have telephone poles to look at and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, you got trees on the other side. Poles, if you're going to cut something down and pay for it, I mean, I'd rather you change a pole rather than change a tree.
Poles cost substantially. I mean, it costs a lot of money to relocate a big pole.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of guy wires on those poles. So even
But I don't think you got to change that many, just maybe right there in that parking lot area. But that said, I'm just saying there's ways around it. It all depends on what you're trying to accomplish. But then you don't have to cross Kemper until you're ready to go up north. Then you cross Kemper. But and you don't have to cross Kemper to go into the park. But what that doesn't satisfy, and this is what you guys need to talk about. For what we learned when this thing all came out was that this thing, well, at least he said he started it, was down at the end. He said saw people coming out of the apartments and having to walk and push the, that's where the strollers came in. And they were pushing strollers to get into the park. Okay, so they're still gonna have to do that, or they're gonna have to come out of the apartments and then cross the street and walk on that sidewalk over there. But it's a danger, whenever you cross the street, I said this with the bikes. It's a dangerous situation, but you know, you got to cross the street somewhere, so you got to work it out. But whenever you do that, when you do it, you're telling whoever's using it, pedestrians, cyclists, this is a safe area to cross. So sometimes they'll go into that not thinking as much as if you didn't have it there. And they go, and then at the same time, those are right in the shadows. So there could be accidents. So, but you can't worry. You got, as long as you think it all the way through, there's got to be a crossing somewhere.
Let me reassure you on one other thing, that we had a law committee meeting just prior to this meeting at 4 o'clock. I can give you a copy of our agenda. 2 of the items on our agenda tonight related to the 42 path that you're talking about. So to echo President Hoppy, I mean, that project is.
Can we just call me Vicky?
That project is legislatively equal as far as how far along it is as the Kemper Road project. I mean, I'm speaking in general terms. Is that
We just
fair?
got to get free money now.
You know, I can give you a copy of that just to reassure you on what she said.
As long as you're doing it, I'm not qualified to do any of that legal stuff anyhow. I'm just telling you what my experience tells me you need to look for, so be aware of. So again, it's in the right of way. So I know there's only so much we can do and say, and but.
And you missed, Mr. Pugh did ask, we are going to be sending out letters on dates for the project. So when things are going to get started, when you can expect people out there for telephone poles or whatever, you will have some start dates sent to you via mail, just like we did this past time for this meeting. Because he had some shrubs and things like that he's going to try to save. So we will let everyone know.
So when you go to pass this thing, you're going to write in there that you're going to appropriate money and have it set aside for the 42. That's the only thing I'm asking, is that you assure us residents that you're not going to let us down, and we're going to.
January 12th.
As long as we
And it's
see
gonna be
that.
done, next week we'll have our first reading on Tuesday. What we learned again with this process with you was very valuable. We were going through thinking you knew nothing. So now we're making sure nothing's going to be passed by emergency when it's going to affect residents. We'll have a first reading, then the residents that will be affected will get a certified letter. So you know in advance that you can come in and talk to us the next council meeting, and we can hear your voices before we pass anything.
Okay.
So we are doing that. That will be the process moving forward. The 12th is when we will vote and start signing contracts with ODOT and getting that 42 path underway. So that's when, once we sign that, then they start with planning and drawing and working with ODOT, and they let us know about funds. And so that's that. It all starts then. It could be a year and a half to 2 years before it's completed, but it's going to start January 12th.
Okay.
However, to your specific question, no, that legislation will not appropriate the money for the construction of that path. Because that construction of that path is definitely not happening in 2021, maybe 22, but I think it's 23.
What path are we referring
Just so
to?
everybody's aware, it's
On 42.
It's 2024 where ODOT has it currently scheduled as being constructed.
And that's because of the grant program.
Yeah, and
let me
I'm sorry.
okay?
Go ahead.
Because there's a really big point here. The decision that we made in reaction to the comments that you and and the fellow residents along there, to not take the money, to basically say, we are not going to build a 10-foot path, because that's what made us eligible to receive funding for this project. That not only made this not fundable, it also took us out of running for grant money from that entity for a year, okay? If we were to reject 42 as well, that would also be a consequence we could have. They could also turn around and say, it'll be more than a year because you now have a history of walking away from grant programs that you've committed to. So from a standpoint as a city, telling you that we are committed to this 42 project, that's probably the best thing I can tell you, is because we're talking about grant programs that bring us several $1 million on certain occasions. So that's how committed we are to the issue of connectivity, the issue of getting the Route 42 piece of this done so that we can bring all of our neighborhoods into downtown. Now, we do sidewalks piecemeal. We've done them for years. I mean, this piece will connect to other sidewalks we've already built. It will connect to the other sidewalks that we built a decade ago down Kemper Road. So there's already a sidewalk that goes from Route 42 all the way down to Mosteller Road. We now have a grant application in. I don't know if this one's been awarded yet, but maybe it did. That goes from Mosteller to Chester, is, you know, to continue that route of sidewalk down Kemper Road so that we're connecting Kemper Road.
We don't know about that project yet. Steve met today, I think.
They did, yeah.
To talk about the project, so you may know work. I don't know yet.
Yeah, preliminary scores officially come out on Friday, so we don't know for sure yet.
So, I mean, all of this is, it's not just something that we said, snapped our fingers, let's do this piece of Kemper Road. It was a calculated design as part of decades worth of work to put this together. We just happen to be in a really good position as a city right now to be able to look at some of these capital projects because of the fact that this council's good use of taxpayer dollars that we have. That's given us the opportunity to look at some capital projects that have been on the back burner for a long time, to try and create them and fix them and do them. Kemper Road, this piece of it, followed along with what we did at Fields Erdel as part of a larger piece of that. But we didn't have to do a sidewalk there. We could have just done the road. We did the road and the sidewalk because of the importance of that connectivity piece. But as far as what you're asking for from a reassurance that we are committed to doing 42, those are the best things I can tell you. I mean, our legislation is not going to appropriate money for 2024 if that's when construction is going to happen. Okay, we're appropriating money to start the engineering, to start the design work, to start those pieces that go into play to make this happen. But what I can tell you is that we don't like to turn and tell government agencies that we don't want to make ourselves ineligible to receive grant funding. And that's what we did in scaling this project back. We certainly aren't going to want to do that again because it doesn't make us look good with partners that are willing to provide us money.
Well, I mean, I hear you, and I'm familiar with all those kinds of things, but you're saying exactly what my fear is, that you have all the good intentions, but you can't predict the future. So, and again, I'm going back to use the word, for some of us, we look at that there's damage being done to our aesthetics, but we can put up with that if your true goal is to make a better community. But if for whatever reason, and you made a perfect example of what's going on west of 42, you know, are we stuck with that now, Kemper? And maybe, you know, 20 years from now, you might consider that. I mean, that's why I'm saying it's always safer to not have a gap if you can afford it. I understand that the money is appropriated for Kemper and Kemper only. Is that what you're telling me? You can only use that money that you are getting for Kemper. You can't use it for 42? Yeah, see, that's part of the problem I had before with, I think it was done out of order, but at this point, you don't want to give up any more money. I get that. So the only thing I could ask is to say that you're going to make the commitment. If something comes up, it comes up, but at least say that you're going to make the commitment to continue to follow through. And You're not going to just make up something in the future. Oh, well, we don't have the money. COVID hit and we're just in trouble. That's the only thing I'm saying. Just,
COVID hit and our city is still doing very well.
okay.
Okay, COVID hit and one of our biggest employers was not working. And we're still doing okay. Because we as a city looked and said, okay, we've got to tighten our belt. You've got a bunch of nickel grubbing people up here. Seriously, we're all tight asses. And I'm not going to spend money if I don't have money, and I'm not going to spend money if I think I'm going to need the money. My most important thing is to keep you as a fire department, a police department, a public works department, to keep your roads clean. That's my goal. I have to have money for those three things to run this city. I'm not going to go spend money that I don't have. We are okay COVID wise. We did not take a hit. You would have thought we did take a hit like we did back in 2009. We did not. And in 2009, we did the same thing in 10. And Greg Pugh was part of us then. We tightened our belts. We did not lay off one employee. Not one employee got laid off when times got tough. Did they get raises? Nope. But they had jobs.
Right.
So we as a council are committed to getting things done that we can afford to get done. We're doing very well right now financially. I give credit to our finance guy in the back. Scott McKeon is a genius. We have Jim Lucas here with us now. So we've got a lot of key people in our city that keep us honest. They keep us abreast of, no, we can't do that right now. Scott would be the first one to tell me, oh, you can't spend that money, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. We have good people in the city that we trust to guide us. Right now, like I said, on the 12th, we're going to go ahead and they will probably approve. From what I heard tonight at Law Committee, it's going to pass. On the 12th is that 42 stuff is going to start. Just like your stuff started 5 years ago. That 42 stuff is going to start. We're going to start with saying, yes, we want to take the money. Yes, we're going to do this. Yes, we're going to do that. It just takes a process to get it done. But they will on the 12th. And you're welcome to come and watch them if you would like.
Okay. I'm not trying to be a bullhead about it. I understand how this stuff works. I've been around it for 40 years.
And I can tell you that Mr. Schmidt has, he has said, maybe we need to, if we take down a tree or a shrub or something, maybe we help replace that. And I know whoever's tree got cut down, they replaced it. Duke did. But they gave you something. Okay. But, maybe we do help with a little bit of landscaping up there. So your area doesn't look like we came in and destroyed it. That's not our purpose.
Okay. And that's fine. My only point, if we could start all over, I think the way I'm saying it should have been better, but you can't. I understand what he's saying.
Yeah.
That's where the money's appropriated. To not take that, you give it up and you have to start over. But only thing I can ask is that you keep 42, and it sounds like you're going to.
I believe I had 3 gentlemen tonight that are very much so interested, and Mrs. Knight was here for that meeting, and she was in full agreement. So quite honestly, that's all I need. I have 4 votes.
Right. Okay.
So
Well,
I got 5.
To help ease your fears a little bit more, so I agree with everything with the mayor stated. That's the best we could do. What we could do a little bit more, if I'm not mistaken, the first thing when I got on council, we started saving money put aside for Reading Road, right? And Scott, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, when that project was done, we had the money, we just paid it off, right? Okay, so, all right, Scott, you remember, all right. So we could do something like, essentially we're earmarking it. Is it guaranteed to go to that project? No. But we can earmark it and say, look, we're going to put it away. And then maybe the next year, we're going to put some away just like we did on Reading Road. And when the project was done, we paid it off. So that's something we could do also. I don't know how much the project's going to cost. I don't know that we can put all the money aside, but we could put something aside
And
for
we
that.
won't know those things until engineering
Yeah.
starts.
I understand. And yeah.
But we have done it before. We did it for Reading Road.
Right. Good. I just need the commitment so that when
I'm all
that we can come up here and say what happened.
Yeah, I'm 100% for going up 42. A couple other things just to touch on. Just like Mr. Lippert, I struggled north-south side, but I finally came to the conclusion they had a double road behind them. They could use that. North side gives you foot traffic out of the apartments and all there. The other thing too is with what Mr. Wilson had said, he's my neighbor. Not many people, some people would walk on Fields Erdel. Once the sidewalk was there, it was used so much more, so much more. The one thing I think we could look at, to address your concern of crossing the street, I don't see it on here. We may or may not have discussed it. I don't recall, but on Fields Erdel at Copperfield and Village Woods, we do have stop signs that flash, right? And those are solar powered. How much were those a piece? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
so-
were actually considering asking for safety funding to fund that.
And I'll make sure I'm clear. When I were to cross Fields Erdel, press the light, I am not going to immediately step across the road, right? It is just like Kemper, it's like Fields Erdel, where you've got people that are, it's a very busy road. It is an alert, and you want people to slow down, and I wouldn't cross the street until I started to see them slow down, right? But that is something, I think it is very beneficial because it's a heads up. Because our neighborhood at Copperfield used to have a flashing yellow light, and it was there all the time, and it lost its use, right? Because you see it all the time. At least when you hit the stop sign light, you're not used to it, and you've got some flashing, and it's a visual cue at that point. So I definitely would like to see that.
Well, the only thing I'll say to that is there's challenges with stop signs. I know when people think of stop signs, they think it's real easy,
Yeah.
but there's not a real good place right there. They got 2 intersections coming in, 3 counting the parking.
Let me rephrase that. They would not have to stop. It's not a stop sign, but it is it's a crosswalk flashing light. I guess
okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That would be the best use.
That would help in the shadows. Right?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
right. So I see that being as very necessary at that location. And I'm all for, look, and I just want to make sure that when we go out here, we've definitely talked about going around trees, and if the neighbor or if the resident would like us and allow us to go on the property to miss a tree, I think we're all for that. We just need to make sure that they all understand that. So the next step, however we communicate that.
I think the person with the most trees is sitting here,
Okay,
and she's gonna take it to
Okay.
her partner, and
all right. I just make sure the other ones too. So anyway, that's what I've got to say. And I'm all for, look, if we got to take some down, look, we'll do what we need to make it look aesthetically pleasing. Thank you.
And I'd say reconsider, or at least consider the existing sidewalk, unless it's in bad shape. You're gonna be taking trees down, put the sidewalk over there. Why can't we just use the existing sidewalk? So that would save you guys money too, so. All right, well, thank you for.
thank you very much. Yes, sir? Yeah, you have to come on.
A little confused on this. You're not building the sidewalk with grant money, right? You're building the sidewalk with monies that the city appropriated for it?
Yeah. We had appropriated this money. We lost the grant money.
Right. So this is actually taxpayer dollars that you're spending here that,
It's appropriated money, yes.
and you
Yeah.
couldn't, back to his question was, and you can't change where that money's gonna go?
We've already gotten so far into this project now and have paid for so much stuff. No, we're not, we as a council voted, and we're not going to do that now. We're going to move forward. We're going to attach. It's not going to be a sidewalk to anywhere. There is too much already done to stop
Well,
and say halt. We've gone too far now. I could halt, and I did, and I took a big hit when I stopped the bike path. We took a huge hit in this city. It made us look very bad to people that give us money. So at this point, the money that we have in this project, we need to move forward with that. I can't take her drawings and say, okay, now move them over here. I've already paid her to do all this. So we've already gotten this far. We're going to complete this project. We're going to start this project next Tuesday with the first reading of the ordinance.
So, you know, it's not the residents of Kemper Road who made the mistake. I mean, you guys, in my mind, made a mistake of spending the money there in the first place. As even I said earlier, and Mr. Dusa said it also, was that the first leg of it should have started here in downtown
But
Sharonville.
there was a grant available for X project. Here was the
Well,
project.
that's what, that was
So
with the
we
grant.
went for the grant. So we went for the grant. That happened 4 years ago, something like that. So we went for that grant, and that grant was for a multi-use sidewalk bike path.
I understand.
None of us knew that you didn't know about it until that meeting, or when whoever called, Mr. Pugh called Mr. Schmidt. None of us we had no idea you didn't know about the project. None, because we had sent out letters. They had notified everybody on Kemper Road to our knowledge. Now, we were told that nobody got the letters. We don't remember seeing the letter. That's fine. Now we have re-evaluated how we do things and how we do projects. And we have a different process now to make it better. But we need to go forward with this. And that's what we're going to do. We're moving forward.
So you're telling me basically it's a done deal.
It is. What you were brought here, the plan was a done deal. What you were brought here tonight was to give input on this. Tell us what you think, what you would like. Here's your property. Here's what we're going to. And this is the first time we're all seeing this too. We haven't had, they're just getting it done. So we want to hear from you on, here's your options. Would you like us to go into your yard a little bit and save your trees, or, what would you like? So we're willing, that's why we opened up this dialogue.
I'd like you to stay out of my yard, but
Well, we're not going to go in
obviously that's not going to happen. So.
We're not going in the yard, we're going in the right of way.
But to his point, I still don't understand how you can appropriate money and then go, wait a minute, maybe we should do this part first and not be able to take that money that you appropriated and apply it back. Other than you're saying that, well, we've already spent all of this money.
We've already gone this
So
far,
now
we're not stopping.
we have committed ourselves
Right, we have committed.
to something
to
that
this project.
maybe most of the residents who live on the road don't want in the first place.
I understand that, and we did not go in.
So basically, you're just forcing it down our throat, whether you're saying, okay, you
No,
come
what
down and
we're
say your
saying-
piece if you want to,
Wendell,
but
I have a right to the right of way. I have a right to the right of way. What we said is, we're not taking your property. The city has a right to the right of way.
you did.
Yes.
I agree.
Okay? I'm not going into your property. I may have to for a little bit of construction, but probably not. I don't know that. But
You're still doing damage to my property.
No, I'm doing damage to the
Well,
right
you're
of
going
way.
to, I think you're going to take out, I think you're
right
going to force the tree I have out front to be trimmed. I don't know how far back, and the hedgerow that's there. I have no
But is
idea
all
what
of that
what
in the
plan,
right of
it
way?
looks like, on the plans, it looks like that I could possibly lose a hedge or two out of there.
But it's in the right of way. It's in the city right of way. Just like I live up on Weiscarver, and if the city decides to come down Weiscarver and put in sidewalks, I'm gonna lose half my backyard because it's the right of way.
Okay. I'm done.
I'm not taking any of your yard.
I don't want to get into a whole discussion, but I think I want to just kind of maybe rephrase some of what Wendell is stating. But I haven't spoken to him, so I'm kind of putting words in his mouth. But I think it's also a little bit that it appears as if you have made a decision to spend money to move forward with a project before really understanding how the residents of the city felt.
No,
And
we understood completely how you felt. That's why we stopped the one project.
oh, I meant years ago. So kind of where you're saying, okay, let's get these plans so far along to be able to present the best ideas. And that created an instance where you had to spend so much money. And then by the time it was ready to be presented in a new light, it was so far along the project that there was no other option for you guys to say, we're either going to take too much of a hit if we pull out 100% on any other new projects. I think, but again, this new committee that's being started, I think it is a way that the city is saying, you know what, before we even get this far in financially to approve funds for a project, let's get more feedback. Let's get more thorough
That's
feedback.
what we're doing.
So I think that's a little bit of what he is stating. It's hard because it was so long ago to get more. I mean, we feel like you kind of led us to believe we had more of a say at this point after you guys halted the bike path project.
You do have a say on if you want to meander, you have a, you know, those kind of things. We did what we told you we would do. We had a work session with Stephanie. What can we do? That's when it was brought up. Can we go south? What would it look like if we go south? What would it look like if we do this? That was all, we went through everything.
Sure.
And then council gave her the directive of build this.
I think it just is one of those things at this moment where what happened in the past was so far along by the time we got involved, by the time you were hearing us out,
and
that it's hard to even come to any type of an agreement on our perspective plus your perspective. And so that's why there's no point to continuing that conversation for me right now. I think that's just trying to reiterate that had the way it started 4 years ago and the way we have the potential to move forward with new projects, I think there's just
very different.
Yeah.
It is very, very different. I give you that. However, some people up on Plainfield Road didn't want a sidewalk in their front yard either. And they haven't.
Sure.
Because it was good for the city. It's good for connectivity. It was good for Plainfield Road. It actually enhanced their properties. And now they're not unhappy with it at all now that I got the grass growing there and stuff, you know.
Sure.
So, you know, once we get everything in order, I hope that you're not displeased. That's why we want you to have input. That's why I have this meeting. You know, but we do have a right of way. And I'm not going out of the right of way unless it's your property and you ask us to save your trees. And at that point, we're willing to do that.
I do have a question for you, Stephanie, on 4064 and 4074, at the second to last page. You mentioned to continue the existing sidewalk. That's one option, to pull that all the way forward or move the sidewalk closer to the street. If you move it closer to the street, do all of these trees and landscaping, the ones that are in green, still get affected if it's on the area closer to the street?
I mean, it depends on the property. Like on 4054, it looks like we could probably go behind the tree and not impact it. I'd have to look at it. But like on 4064, yeah, I don't think it's going to help. I think we'd still be hitting. The grade starts to drop on 4064, and I don't think we can miss those.
Okay.
I think we need to come back to the road on 4064, from what I remember.
If I can put my opinion on properties that aren't mine, I think pulling it closer to the road to save as many of those trees is beneficial to kind of go up using the existing and then come back down to be able to save as many trees as possible. And then my next question, are all of the properties going to have concrete where the sidewalk meets to the asphalt or concrete of driveways?
I mean,
Aprons.
you would have a concrete apron, basically.
Okay.
So everybody would get a concrete apron that would connect you to the curb, concrete to the sidewalk, and then it would start with your driveway after that.
So has there been discussion on how that apron is going to smooth into the road? Because I know some of the driveways at this point have a very rough movement upwards. Is there any conversation on how that's happening, or are you pretty much keeping the existing layout as it is now, just changing it to the concrete apron?
We have not had conversations on that.
Okay.
So if you have some thoughts on that, like some of them are roll curb, where you're meant to kind of drive over the curb.
Mhm.
Some of them have a drop curb. So I don't have any details on that. So are you talking about the ones that are more that you drive over the curb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could tell you on Plainfield, excuse me, whenever they put the sidewalk in on Plainfield, they went with the drop curb with all the new aprons, because I live just down the street from Plainfield.
Okay.
If that helps answer a question.
Thank you. Okay, that was the last of my questions. And I'll send you an email.
Sue?
I would like to ask you a question. Seeing as you're further down on Kemper, do you think you would use this sidewalk as an access, like to Sharon Woods? And that's, so I just feel like, I think if I had I have a sidewalk in front of my house, but I know when I go to Sharon Woods, I see people probably just from the apartments walking to Sharon Woods, but I was just seeing if you guys would be interested, if you would use that road or that sidewalk to get to Sharon Woods to access the park.
That's a good question. I've kind of thought about that a lot. I'm a dog trainer. That's my profession. And I utilize Sharon Woods to help with clients' dogs. I'm constantly bringing my own dogs, clients' dogs over to Sharon Woods for training, train in my yard. Would it become easier to say, hey, let's go to Sharon Woods? I don't know, because that is a long route to go all the way down and then access Sharon Woods versus hopping in a vehicle and making it over, which is a lot closer. Would I use the sidewalk more on my own block? If it's there, probably, but I would definitely rather utilize something that's not so close to other people's properties. So it's a hard thing. Would I use it to access Sharon Woods? More than likely not, even with why I utilize Sharon Woods the way I do. Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? No other? Yes, I will entertain that motion to adjourn. So moved by Mr. Lippert, second by Mrs. Knight. All those in favor, yes. Yes. Those opposed, no. And we do stand adjourned.
Thank you.